Hey, 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 it is Friday. It is 5 o'clock somewhere. It is definitely 5 o'clock here on the East Coast in the studio. So I hope you guys had an amazing week, but if you didn't, that's okay. It is time to grab a glass of wine and unwind with us. So we're still talking new experiences. My glass is chilled. I'm drinking Dublin sweet white wine and I'm ready to go. Hope you're ready too. So we know that life outside this uniform is different for everybody. It's not going to look the same for me as it's going to look for you. So my guest today shares her story of going from active duty to a full-time support role as mommy and spouse. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the full-time support role of Tanya. You're listening to Camouflaged Beauty, a podcast of shared experiences for military women. My guest today is a full-time mom. She used to be an active duty member, but now she's in a full-time support role as a spouse and a mother of 3 daughters. Tanya, who's wife to an active duty senior NCO, also holds a Master's of Science in Administration and is one class away from her second master's degree in Procurement and Acquisition Management. She loves Latin music and Zumba, and these are passions that she shares with her 3 daughters. Tanya, welcome to the platform. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us all the way from Sicily, Italy. So let's talk a little bit about your role going from active duty to being in a full-time support role. How has that changed for you, your daily schedule?
The change was really big. When I was an airman, it was go to work 8 to 5, know your job. After that, do PT. The most important thing was showing up on time and knowing your job, being respectful and performing well. At 5 o'clock, I was done, didn't have to think about work truly overnight until the next day. But as a mom, my job is 24/7, literally all hours of the day, every single day. There is no sick days, there are no leave days. It's definitely different.
Yeah, I can see that. That is a lot. It is a 24-hour schedule for sure. But you look to be doing it pretty well. Do you feel that because you were active duty prior, you're able to support your spouse better in his role?
I feel that I am definitely able to support my husband a lot better because I was active duty myself. I understand that some days he has to stay at work a little bit later to finish the EPRs, the performance reports, or that he may need to go to all call or a ball in the evening, or that he has to volunteer his hours on the weekends. So I completely understand. Or for example, this past Thanksgiving, my husband was supposed to be gone on TDY just for 2 days and got stuck for 10 days ultimately. So he missed Thanksgiving with his family. But in Italy, we say va bene, like it is what it is, just go with the flow. And I really understand that sometimes that's what happens when you're in the military. There's things that you can't control. So it's better to accept it and to make the best of it. And I really think that being active duty has opened up my eyes as to what is required and expected from my husband now versus being a spouse that does not have all of that knowledge.
No, perfect. I can see that absolutely being a benefit. So you are there to support your spouse. Who's there to support you? How do you feel about the support programs on the base that you're at, and have the support programs been beneficial to you?
I'm not sure if you heard my initial reaction, but that was a giggle because you are so right. I am here to support my husband and who is here to support the spouses. So I live in Sicily, Italy, and we are stationed on the Navy base. We live in housing on a Navy base, and they do have spouse support groups. They have three. They have one for officer spouses. They have one for junior enlisted spouses, and then they have another group for senior enlisted spouses. And since my husband is a senior enlisted member, that's the spouse group that I joined. But I really did not fit in very much with the group of ladies because most of them, they were a little bit older than I am, with children that are a lot older than my children are. For example, I had a newborn baby and the other spouses had kids that were in college, that were about to graduate high school. So we didn't really connect on a good level. So the support that I received from the spouse support groups did not help me very much. But there are a lot of amazing mommy friends that I've met, and I've met most of them at the playground. And it's true. But I think that being overseas, in a way, it's a little bit easier to meet people because everybody has nobody. We are all that we have versus I think if I was in the States and I moved to another state, it will be a little bit harder to make friends because there the spouses have so much more opportunity to meet other people versus when you're overseas, you just have your own little bubble and that's it. So good question. I think my husband has a lot more support also at work, his leadership, his peers. He joined the Chiefs group, so he has a lot of support and definitely a lot more support than the spouses do.
Absolutely. So just let our listeners know, honestly, what is it like following a spouse to a location after being the active duty member yourself? He kind of rolls into this new base. He has a built-in support system in his job. And then there's you and the kids.
That's right. You said it perfectly. And then there's me and the kids. So we found out we were going to move to Italy. I was so super excited because I thought I was going to live on the beach and have my gelato ice creams every day. And I had this Italian dream. And then we get here and my husband goes to work. He has to report to duty that same day that we arrive. And he's good to go. His senior takes him under his wings, takes him to domino nights, and then there's just me and the kids. The housing is kind of in farmland, so we can't walk to any little bakeries or gelato places. We're not near the beach. So it's a little bit different. I felt like we're a little bit stuck here. And like I mentioned earlier, the support group was not there for me as I had hoped. So it was definitely a culture shock. And also another thing that was shocking when I was active duty, I feel like you get a lot of respect. People look up to you when you say that you're active duty or when you say that you're a veteran. People automatically talk to you a little bit differently versus when you're a stay-at-home mommy. You don't get that automatic respect, even though being a stay-at-home mom is definitely hard work. I have an example of that. So a veteran, I have a master's degree, currently working on my second master's degree. The first week that I moved to our house, one of the neighbors approached me. Oh, welcome to the neighborhood. How are you? Little chit-chat, chit-chat. And one of the first things she said is like, oh, what does your husband do? Where does he work? Wanting to know, is my husband an officer or is my husband enlisted? And then, he's enlisted. Is he junior enlisted or is he senior enlisted? And I was like, whoa, excuse me. Like, well, what about me as a person? So that was also different versus when you're a military member, you're like, oh, you're in the military. Okay, welcome. Versus when you're a spouse, it's like, what does your husband do? First before we can say, oh, welcome.
Wow. Yeah, that's very different. So you are a stay-at-home mom, but have you looked for jobs? And if so, what's the job market like for spouses?
Oh, yes. So I am actually a contract specialist by trade. I was a contract specialist when I was in the military. I left the military and I was also a contract specialist. So I really enjoy working. I enjoy having my own career, having my own income. And when we moved to Italy, I thought I was going to also be working on a career, but the job market over here is very almost non-existent for spouses. There are a few jobs available, but most of the good jobs they go to the Italians, which is understandable because we're in their country, but it's really hard to find a good job over here. And there are many, many qualified individuals. My two neighbors both are spouses, and both of them are nurses. They were nurses when they lived in the States, and then now they come over here and they cannot continue working on their career. So it's really hard. And I think that was one of the things I didn't truly understand before becoming a spouse and moving with my husband to another location is the sacrifices that women make when they support the active duty member. And it's hard for spouses to have a career when they move from base to base, especially when they stay overseas. It's really hard to work on their career. So I think that's something that a lot of active duty members, myself included when I was active duty, didn't really understand the sacrifices that the spouses make when they support and go with their husbands or wives to other locations.
Right, right. No, that has been a hot topic across the DoD for quite some time. And I know they're addressing it at bases stateside particularly, but I don't know if there's anything that they've done to consider addressing it for locations overseas. Actually, someone just sent this to me. It says more than 30% of active duty spouses require state issued a license for their careers. And when they move to another state due to a PCS move, they often require a professional recertification because each state has different requirements. And so they're offering help for people affected by this. The U.S. Department of Labor's Military Spouse Interstate License Recognition Program is offering information about this to help spouses navigate this. So to all the listeners, if you are able to log on to veterans.gov/mil spouses, there may be some information there for you if you are like Tanya, who is in a support role, but unfortunately at this time, it looks like this is only applying to the United States. So sorry, Tanya, that that information does not help you at this time. But with all those things said, what was your biggest surprise on going full-time versus active duty? Something that you didn't really understand or really didn't know, and now you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is real.
I think just when you're active duty, you know what is expected from you. You're expected to stay in shape. You're expected to perform well physically. You know what your job requirement is. You know when you have to study for promotion. So you know what is expected from you. There's no gray area. At least in my opinion, there's no gray area. When you are a support role, it's all gray because the military, even though I say when you're in the military, you know what's going on, but when you're in the support role, you don't really know what's going on. You have to go with the flow. When you're a full-time mommy, you don't know what's going to go on. You think, okay, we have an appointment at 9. We're going to leave the door by 8:30. And of course, there's always an diaper explosion. Somebody dropped a cup of juice over themselves right before you're leaving. So it's a lot different. It's different. But I must say that there's also a type of joy that I get with spending a lot of time with my girls. I get to mold them, I guess, to my liking. And if I was working full time, then they would have to go to daycare and I would not be able to influence how they're growing up as much. I wouldn't be able to influence what children they play with as much. So there's always two sides to a coin. So it's different. It's not necessarily better or worse, but it's definitely different. But I did want to talk about something related to your previous question about the careers for spouses.
Mm-hmm.
When you are a spouse and you move overseas to a location, or I think to another state, and you have to quit your job in order to move with your spouse, I think 46 states allow the spouse to qualify for unemployment benefits. So I'm not sure if that's widely known. Unfortunately, Ohio was one of the states that did not do that. But a lot of spouses can qualify for unemployment benefits, at least for a little bit, when they give up their job to move with their active duty spouse to another location.
No, that's excellent information. I hope someone listening that needed that information has jotted that information down. As of right now, 46 states are offering that. So do your fact check and go out here to the labor departments and ask for the help that you need. And this is exactly why we're doing this podcast, to be able to share that firsthand experience with someone else, because I don't have your experience, and there's going to be someone else who goes through something similar that you are going through and wish they had the information you're sharing. So thank you for that information. Okay, so as we wrap up, what advice would you like to give women who are considering leaving active duty and going in a full-time support role as mommy and spouse?
I thought about this, and I found a quote that I think is very fitting, and I'm not sure who wrote it, but it goes like this: change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And I think this is true for any type of change, whether this is you're leaving from active duty to now being a support role, or if you're active duty and now you're going to still be active duty, but you're going to be a mommy. Change can be scary at first, but you need to stay focused and do what makes you happy, because ultimately nothing is worth it if you're not happy. So if you're changing because you feel like this is best for you, stick with that change and make it work.
Very well said, Tanya. Thank you again for joining us here on the Camouflage Beauty platform.
Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies. Naomi Wolf says, motherhood is one of the most challenging yet creative jobs anyone can do. After all, the payment a mother receives is the pleasure of watching her children grow. The challenges are endless, but the reward is priceless. That's it for us, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. You can find us on the book, IG, or Twitter. Email us your stories to camobeautystories@gmail.com. That's it for me, y'all. Until next time, be kind to your body, soul, and mind.